Continuing our series on the top 8 countries by migration, today we're looking at the country that ranks second in terms of migrant population, France.
Ticket printé dans ma main, valise légère, cœur qui freine. Je laisse derrière les matins gris, les mêmes cafés, les mêmes vies. France, je te traverse comme un rêve. De gare en gare, je me relève. Entre tes chants, tes toits, ta mère, tu recouds mes morceaux en l'air.
Banlieue. That single word is enough to spark a debate in France. Once, these housing projects were built to house workers and migrants who helped rebuild the country after the war. Today, they are a symbol of broken promises. It is here, on the outskirts of Paris and Marseille, that the Republican formula, French no hyphens, collides with the reality of discrimination, unemployment, and powerlessness. And when another migrant boat capsizes off the coast of Calais and new riots erupt in the suburbs, France once again asks itself the same question: who is it really ready to call its own? France has one of the longest and most complex migration histories of any country in Europe, and yet it is also one of the most uncomfortable talking about it. As of 2025, approximately 12 million people living in France were born outside the country, representing around 17% of the total population. And if you count second-generation immigrants, those born in France, to at least one immigrant parent, that figure rises to nearly 19 million, or roughly 30% of the French population. Migration, in other words, is not a recent phenomenon in France. It is woven into the very fabric of the country. France's modern migration history begins in the aftermath of the Second World War, when the country needed to rebuild and looked outward for labor. Waves of workers arrived from Portugal, Spain, Italy, and Poland. Then, as France's colonial empire in Africa and Southeast Asia crumbled, a new wave of migrants came from its former territories: Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, Senegal, Ivory Coast, and beyond. The Algerian community is today the largest single migrant origin group in France, a reflection of the extraordinarily deep and often painful ties between the two countries. France has always had a particular philosophy about immigration, one rooted in the concept of assimilation. The French Republic does not officially recognize ethnic or racial categories. There are no hyphenated identities in the French civic tradition. You are French, full stop. The state does not collect data on the ethnic origins of its citizens. This approach was meant to create equality, to say that the Republic sees no difference between a person whose family has been in France for 10 generations and someone who arrived last year and became a citizen. In practice, however, critics argue that this refusal to name or measure inequality has made it harder to address discrimination and exclusion. The suburban housing projects known as banlieues, built in the 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s to house the growing working class and arriving migrants, have become some of the most politically charged spaces in French society. These areas, often located on the outskirts of Paris, Lyon, Marseille, and other major cities, are home to large proportions of people with immigrant backgrounds, particularly from North and West Africa. They have also been the sites of recurring episodes of social unrest, from the major riots of 2005, which spread across France and lasted for 3 weeks, to smaller but intense disturbances in more recent years. The underlying causes are consistently identified as unemployment, discrimination in hiring and housing, poor public services, and a profound sense among residents that the French Republic's promise of equality does not apply to them. France also stands at the center of Europe's ongoing debate about irregular migration. The northern coast of France, particularly the area around Calais and the port of Dunkirk, has for years been home to makeshift migrant camps where thousands of people, many from Sudan, Eritrea, Afghanistan, and Iraq, wait and attempt to cross the English Channel to reach the United Kingdom. These crossings, made in small inflatable boats, have been the source of immense human tragedy, with dozens of people drowning each year in the frigid waters of the Channel. Despite repeated efforts by French authorities and diplomatic pressure from Britain, the camps persist, constantly dismantled and constantly reformed. In 2023, France passed significant new immigration legislation following months of intense national debate. The law tightened conditions for family reunification, made it harder to remain in France after a visa expiry, and introduced new restrictions on access to social benefits for recent arrivals. It also included some measures intended to ease the path for migrants working in sectors with labor shortages, a practical acknowledgement that France, like Germany, needs workers it cannot find within its own borders. The legislation passed only after tortuous political negotiations and provoked protests from civil society groups who argued it marked a fundamental shift in France's relationship with human rights law. Migration in France today sits at the intersection of identity, colonialism, economics, religion, and politics in a way that makes it uniquely explosive. Whether the conversation is about the veil in schools, the French language as a prerequisite for citizenship, the visibility of Islam in the public square, or the right of undocumented migrants to remain in the country, these debates cut to the heart of what France believes itself to be.
Ticket printé dans ma main, valise légère, cœur qui freine. Je laisse derrière les matins gris, les mêmes cafés, les mêmes vies. France, je te traverse comme un rêve. De gare en gare, je me relève. Entre tes chants et toi, ta mère, tu recouds mes morceaux en l'air. France, tu me tiens, tu m'achèves. Mais dans tes bras tout devient bref. Juste ce train, ce soir, moi qui pense que je me perds pour mieux te voir, France.